We are about to diving deeper into the topic of strategic ambition. As you know, and as we've just heard, executive management does play an important role in the success of a new venture. One important topic is that the CEO has to define and set out a guiding strategic ambition to legitimize exploration by linking it to the company's growth aspirations. We will start into this part of the event with a striking example from Bosch, I dare to say, and therefore we would like to welcome back Johannes Sommerhäuser on stage here. Johannes, please.
I have to click somewhere or it's not needed? Okay. Yeah, thank you very much, Manuel. It's my pleasure to come back to what I said initially, that corporate innovation is a discipline, is a task with very many different elements. And when it comes to innovation, and most of you do know this, this is part of the DNA of the company of Bosch. This holds particularly true when it comes to technology innovation. And the company is known and famous for all these inventions from the past 130 years. But in addition to technology innovation, the past years have shown that also the commercial side, the business model innovation, plays an increasing important role. And to say this in other words, from our former CEO, Volker Denner, he said, the company has to draw its attention increasingly also to new business models in order to sustain the company's future success. Well, when we have events such as this one and other ones that the company features, we are often introducing examples from other firms, from companies that have famous examples, and Andy has shown us a lot of them. And when we talk to our own people, they're saying, yeah, well, that was quite interesting, but what has this to do with Bosch? Therefore, we are today extra pleased and happy to present an example from our own banks, the Bosch eBike systems case. And the example demonstrates what can be achieved also in a corporate environment when the hunting zones are clear and then you have a dedicated team that pursues a joint vision. But what would this event be if we just would look into a video together? So therefore, I'm more than happy and glad to invite Claus Fleischer on stage, the president of Bosch eBike Systems. Welcome, Claus, here together with me.
Thank you.
Claus, it's a pleasure to have you here. Please have a seat. As I mentioned this morning, we will have a fusion in this event, meaning that not just the two of us will talk, but we would also like to involve our audience here in the room and also online. So therefore, I would like to ask you to pick up your cell phones and to scan the QR code. And we would like you to vote for the questions from the audience. So the question that get the most ratings, we will ask later also to Claus and to integrate into our discussion. Claus, let's start. You went through a journey that you qualified as a road with bumpy parts. And my first question would be, why did Bosch decide to step into this e-bike business?
Yeah, first of all, thanks for having me and thanks for your interest and curiosity about the story behind Bosch eBike Systems. And you could say, looking from the outside, it's either a hero story or it's pure luck. I would say it's something in between. It has been a bumpy road. We are right now in the next two waves already. So we are right now in a down wave with a situation we are all in with the global economy, with supply shortage on microcontrollers. We are in a huge backlog situation. We have price increases. We don't know how to support the industry and the demand in the market. This is really operational, super tough. No fun at all right now. And at the same time, we see already the next wave that we want to surf on because we see hyper-growth coming from the market. So hyper-growth that we have fueled here. And we will double our business in the next 2 to 3 years again. And this is a crazy uphill wave that we have to manage. So just to put this into perspective, and if we touch on the session here today and the 2 keynotes from Uwe and Andrew, whatever they gave you as an insight in corporate strategy, in methods, in tools, whatever, use this as inspiration, because we could do a workshop right now and go bullet point by bullet point and find indications in our stories. Just to put this into perspective, the 2 keynotes were really excellent. So it's all about starting with the why. Simon Sinek starting with the why, and it was the 2 engineers. They had the idea, we have megatrends out there. It was 2008 megatrend report, demographic change, energy emissions, and urbanization and traffic congestions. And there was the very small, how you call this, innovation of electrical bikes. So Bosch, we did not invent electrical bikes, but we were basically a fast follower. But they had the idea, let's take Bosch technology, like we said in the Spark, electrical motors and electronic software and so on, because this is an invented for life story. So they thought, really, how can we change life of people? Because they love to cycle, we take the hard part away and we have the technology. And the why was always coming from the user experience, the user journey. What can we change? How can we contribute? And that's simply the why.
Okay. What I found particularly interesting when you said this was also a bumpy road, and namely that there were some factors favoring the business. You mentioned the quality approach, the manufacturing capabilities of the company, but there were also downsides. And I would like to ask you which external challenges you had to master when it was about to develop this business to the stage that we see as of today.
I would say the biggest external challenge we had turned into a key success factor. This is our business model. So when we came to this industry, no one knew us. Everyone thought Bosch is automotive, Bosch is household appliances, Bosch is power tools, Bosch is industry. Why is Bosch coming now to a bicycle trade show? So we were like animals from a different planet. And Bosch corporate back then, everyone in a suit and a tie, and the bike industry, shorts, shirt, polo shirt, T-shirt. And basically, we had to match with this industry, and we had to learn what are the rules and the unwritten rules of this industry. We had to get to know the key players in the industry, and also in the later for the business model in the go-to market. So, and this is a very important takeaway for everyone who is in corporate innovation or really in a startup. You have to know the market. And we have developed an outside-in company and creating this pull from the end consumer, really understand the purpose, the need, and then getting to know in this industry what are the sales channels, the distribution channels, who are the real decision makers. The real decision maker for you to buy a bicycle is the bike dealer. It's not you, it's the bike dealer. 9 of 10 bikes, and the decision to buy this bike is the dealer. So in our business model, we are using a full set of services to educate, to give training to dealers, sales training and also technical training, workshop training, remote diagnostics, warranty claims, blah, 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 everything to make them happy so that they know, okay, if I sell a Bosch bike and if something happens, they are here for me. So we had to learn that the dealer is really the key. And this is for you, whatever business model you are developing, find your way into the market and gain reputation. The Bosch brand helps a lot because the Bosch we have a great reputation for technology and services, and the external barrier was basically to gain respect and reputation in this industry, still today. Yeah.
I could imagine, Klaus, that when you were mentioning these challenges from the external and your insight that you learned from this, was not easy to convey also to the internal organization. You mentioned this a little bit in the Spark, that there were also people supporting the idea, but there were also obstacles internally. And therefore, I would like to know what were the most challenging internal ones that you have faced, particularly in the period when it was not true or proven that this would be a multi-billion business eventually in future?
Yeah, 12 years back, 2009, no one knew it would be multi-million, multi-whatever. The biggest internal barrier was skepticism. Skepticism from anyone. Why do we even invest into bicycles? And is this even a business? And why shall we use our very important and very skilled engineering and technical stuff to work on a motor for a bicycle and on a battery? So it was a lot of skepticism. And we had to convince internal stakeholders, as we said, with user experience. And it was Volkmar Denner himself, who was back then in the board of management. Back then he was not CEO, he was G21. And he was responsible for AE, automotive electronics. And the question was, who would be allowed to invest into this business? So electrical drives, ED, they were in restructuring, they were not allowed to invest. Gasoline systems, investing in electric vehicles and hybrid vehicles, they were so super busy with that business back then. So they said, this is too small for us, we don't want to do that. And Volkmar Denner said, okay, if no one wants to do, then I'm investing in AE, in automotive electronics. I would say looking backwards, this was good because we had the chance to invest into the business model and into a full system. So I think internally, this is one of the best cross-GB and cross-functional innovation and examples that we have within Bosch, because we have electrical drives from ED, we have electronics from AE, we have a cooperation for batteries with power tools, and. We now have an ABS with two-wheeler power sports, NCC, and so on. So it's a cross-GB, but to get there, you have to convince and convince and convince. And the best thing is, give them something to play, give them something, the stakeholders, to experience and change their own perception. That was internally and initially the most important. And then secondly, you have to show also that you are able not only to define a strategy and a business plan, you have to deliver on that plan. And this was the year 2011 and 12. And that was very difficult. This is when I came on board in 2012. And we really had to dig very deep into quality and cost and delivery. And luckily, we made the turnaround. When I say luckily, and today we can be a little bit more anecdotal, I said earlier, it's somewhere between, I wouldn't say hero story and luck, pure luck, it's somewhere in between. But we have two factors, external factors, that we don't have in most of the businesses. And I would like to share this with you if we have the time. Sure. Because the business model and the product portfolio, okay, two key success factors. But we can be happy and lucky that we have a market which is growing in a way that we did not expect at all, really not, with a high willingness to pay. And most of my colleagues and myself, we came from automotive, and in automotive, it's a totally different game. Less growth and less willingness to pay. And secondly, competition. I came from a very competitive environment in my years before, and the competition set up in the bicycle industry is quite favorable for us. So we are lucky that we are a little bit stronger than our competitors, and we play that card with a pull from the Bosch brand and with the technology push that we are bringing to the market. And these are two things you cannot bet on this. A market with growth and willingness to pay and not so strong competition. You can hope for this, but you cannot bet on that.
You mentioned, Klaus, that you are since 2012 on board in e-bike systems. So today or this year you will celebrate your 10th anniversary, so to say, with
did already.
You did it already. And this means you are a corporate entrepreneur, corporate explorer since a decade. If I would ask you, what are the core learnings? What would you convey to the generation that is coming after you, exploring these kind of ventures for the company or even within e-bike system? What would you give them as a hint? What were the core learnings from your point of view to make entrepreneurship successful in a corporate environment such as Bosch?
If you allow me, I would like to give two answers because we were preparing some of these questions. Why did we prepare this? Because we also had a business case study for Harvard Business together with Volkmar Denner. And we also did some interview snips with Volkmar Denner. And these are the original notes from Volkmar. And I'm happy to share this with you. And then I give you my insight. So Volkmar Denner's answer, and I totally agree with that, and some of this were in the two keynotes. Yeah. You said I should be anecdotal. Yeah. So first of all, you need a cross-functional team with all competencies in the team. So cross-functional means from product management, engineering, project management, then bring purchasing, manufacturing, quality, everyone. A small team. And the core competencies have to be in the team. Then develop a very strong leadership culture, and I would say the leadership culture should focus on this purpose-driven setup that you have. And there is in the book, The Innovator's Dilemma, there's a saying, the size of the organization should fit the size of the business. So if you have a startup, you have to have a small cross-functional team with a leader and don't be too spread out in the silos. And then establish a supervisory board. This will force you to regularly ask yourself questions about the progress of market access. So Volkmar Denner was a member of our supervisory board. And I can tell you initially, this is super challenging, especially in the downwaves, but it's super important. And I appreciate having my quarterly supervisory board meetings now with G4, Markus Hein, last year with Harald Kröger, because then you use the time in the preparation to focus on the essential message. What is the market situation, what the customer situation, competitive situation, and you have to force yourself to really dig in what are the chances, the opportunities, and the threats out there. The supervisory board is super important. Don't see it as a burden, see it as a chance to reflect with your team, are we on the right track? Because sometimes you have a clear vision, and then you go sideways, and you lose your true north. So supervisory board helps. It's not always fun and easy. It's good. Then focus. Don't get distracted. I have a background in corporate restructuring in different divisions, and the toolbox that I learned working with consultants was whatever you need in restructuring, you also need to grow a startup to a mid-size, full-blown company. And you have to focus. We have so many opportunities. Right now, we have, again, Bosch in-house consultants in-house, and we have to focus again in our portfolio, in our manufacturing footprint, in our investments. We could distract the whole team by just taking on too many opportunities. So I totally agree with him. And then he says, for senior leadership, it's important to, first of all, give freedom, but care with dedication. Accept mistakes, but insist on excellence. Create entrepreneurs and treat them accordingly, so no micromanagement. Establish a zero distance to customer culture in the team. So this is our business model. I totally agree to what Volkmar reflected. I would like to give you 4 different, if you allow time. So first of all, I just took the notes when I listened to the 2 keynotes. Disrupt yourself before others do. So we did a business model pivoting. We did big mistakes in our portfolio. We changed the portfolio in and out. But you have to disrupt yourself, and you have to be paranoid. Always look outside in and see what's happening in the market. You have to be paranoid. You have to challenge yourself. What's competition doing? What's the next threat? And always try to change a challenge into a chance. So learn to love VUCA. when 5-8 years VUCA was the super word of the year, and we are in a super VUCA world. But you can try to make a challenge and turn it into a chance and opportunity. And then I think this is what Andrew said. We are in times of constant change and transformation. And we are right now not only in doubling the business, we are right now in a situation where we have the digital transformation. So we are right now blending together the physical experience of riding an e-bike with the digital experience of using an app and cloud services, and bringing this as a holistic experience to the market. The internal challenge of this transformation is huge, and I see Frank back there in the last row, he knows what I'm talking about. This is huge for the whole Bosch group and also for us internally. So embrace transformation and change.
Great. Thank you for these insights from a corporate entrepreneur. I trust I get some technical signs that now it's time to look into what the audience wants to know from you, Claus. And I would like to ask the first question that had gotten the most votes. What are the lessons learned from the e-bike business for other Bosch divisions? If you convey your success story from the e-bike market, that other business, other domains in Bosch could eventually learn and take away?
I would say some of that we have covered already, but first of all, outside in business model. Get to know the market, the industry, the stakeholders, the decision makers out there, and then to create a pull from the market. Bosch, most of the time we are technology driven. We just love our technology and we try to push things into the market. But maybe the market doesn't need this or accept this, or the decision makers we don't know. So invest in market intelligence and in stakeholders. I think creating a strong pull and need from the market is way more important than pushing the last bit of technology.
I trust we still have, I'll check it, we still have time for another question. Of course, the audience is interested in another one. Why have you entered the market as a solution and component provider and refrained from starting the business as an OEM? Because capabilities, as you mentioned, in the company are quite broad, but what made you deciding for the solution and component business provider?
That's a very good question, because this is something that you have to consider early on. What's your position in the food chain? Do you want to be tier 1 or OE or tier 2 or 3? And in automotive, Bosch is tier 1, and motorbikes as well. And power tools and in household appliances, we are an OE. And as this is mobility, we decided this is what we know, to integrate components into a system, sell this to a to bike manufacturer, and integrate the system into the bike. This is the logical technology answer. If you look at it from an outside-in market perspective, it's pure economies of scale. With entering this market with the Bosch brand, with a Bosch bike, we would have had a hell of competition. You know, I don't think that you'd even know half of the 150 brands that we are shipping our products to. So we would compete with so many brands worldwide on a small market share. But if you look into the tier 1 system business, this was a handful. One is out of the market, the second one is losing market share year over year, and the others are not that strong. So to scale your business, we have the perfect sweet spot.
With regards to the last statement about competition, there is a last and final question from the audience. Why did other automotive suppliers, from your point of view, at this time, at least at this time, not enter the market?
First of all, it was 2008 and 2009, the time of the world economic crisis, automotive crisis. Everyone is looking on restructuring business and not investing. And I would say the ones who looked into that may have answered a couple of questions differently. And maybe it was that the the team was super convinced of this vision and the passion. And also we had in the board of management, not only Volkmar Denner, we had Stefan Kampmann back then in AE, and we had different senior executives. And I think, Andrew, you showed the chart, the bubble chart with number 59 and 49 and 50. This is exactly what happened. So the team knew how to basically influence the network up to the board of management to influence and support the message. And maybe other automotive suppliers answered this question differently, or they got stuck in a lower. And then they came later, but if you come too late to the party and the market shares are already distributed, then it's difficult to gain market share. It was the perfect timing as well. If you talk about luck, it was also perfect timing. Yeah.
Thank you, Klaus, for being with us here today and for these valuable insights from a corporate entrepreneur. We would like to continue, and I would say thank you again for being with us and sharing the experience with Bosch eBike systems.
My pleasure. Thank you very much.